From formation to taxation, covering inflation, temptation, high expectations, and that dreaded stagnation, we bring to you Hip Nation.
Hey, and welcome to episode 2 of Hip Nation. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Shay.
And this week we're going to talk about staying hip in an ever-changing world. First up on the agenda is social media. And number one, something that I always tell my clients and that I know is important to anyone who uses social media is the importance of not just posting on social media. And what I mean by that is you're engaging, meaning you're commenting, you're liking, you're saving people's posts, you're sharing, etc. But also that you're providing value to people. The way that Instagram's algorithm works is that the more value you provide to people, that makes them want to save it, share it, like it, comment on it. The higher up in the ranks that you'll be in terms of what gets seen by others.
Yeah, so, social media is a tricky one, especially the older that we get, the new forms that come out. I don't know about you, but even when Instagram came out, I'm sitting there clicking my phone, like, how does this crap work? And it's just, it's just photos. I'm like, how do people find this amusing? I don't know. And then I find myself 4 hours later still scrolling up the screen trying to figure out, like, how this person looks so good. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. Okay, mind you, yes, there's filters and all this other stuff, but, it's just the pictures. They grab your attention. Those colors are bright. Facebook, it did have its time, and it is fading slowly, as many would like to disagree with me, and they're usually over the age of 35, but it's not quite as edge as it used to be. We still use it because it's useful. It gives you that connection with people, but there's new things coming into the picture. I think I mentioned last podcast there that just a couple months ago I got TikTok. And for me, in my age group, Vines were a huge thing. And I never really correlated the two, business and social media, together at that time. But now, TikTok and business, that is how you advertise. That is how you get out there. And there is nothing more amusing than watching, someone slap an egg against their head, or, have a commentary with themselves, there's nothing quite as funny as that. And then you realize afterwards that they're promoting a product in there, or, they've connected with a sponsor and they're sponsoring a product in there, but it's that subliminal messaging and something that gets in there. But that is the new form, TikTok and Instagram. Those seem to be the highlights right now. But yes, you need to be engaging on there for sure.
Definitely. On that topic, there are so many other things that go into being in business with social media, such as, we're going to name a few, but on the top of the list, whether you're going to do it yourself or whether you're going to hire someone to do it for you. And there are two camps to this.
Yes.
Because there's cost associated with hiring somebody, mm-hmm. but there's also the question of how much time are you going to spend on this?
I'm so much of a control freak. I don't know about you. Like, if somebody else is sitting there posting stuff on there, I'm going to be like, oh no, that is not my image. I do not look, or they're setting up expectations for me. Like, I've got my crap together. Like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you would never want to be seen as having your crap together.
No. Like, I like to set people up with a realistic expectation. This is what you get. One post every other month because life is busy. And that post is disheveled and probably has 10 filters on it.
And on the topic of post frequency, there are so many different experts at this that say so many different things. I know I post every day for my main business and at least once a week for my other side hustles. But
You are goals. I'm not
I,
gonna lie. I see her posts on there, and I'm like, how is she do? That is amazing.
but
It's
it
just
takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
My problem is I can't let go of the control. On the design side, because I am a graphic designer, I'm like, fuck that. I am not letting someone take this over for me, because that's my reputation on the line, right?
yeah.
But also on the content side, it would be so hard, in my opinion, to hire someone to do this for me, considering that my content is like fresh every day. So if I'm taking pictures of things that I'm selling and I'm kind of talking about different value added things such as branding tips and stuff like that, this content is so fresh. So if I'm just going to send it to someone else to do it for me, well, as it comes along, then I may as well just do it myself. But there are huge advantages to having somebody who does this for you.
Yes.
There are consulting firms that do this. And I know Shay knows a lot more about that than I do, but there's like, how much time do you actually have to spend on social media? Like, you personally?
Oh, none at all. And I think someone definitely in my shoes would appreciate that, even though you can't, let go of control of a lot of things. Unfortunately, you come to that point where you decide, what is my time worth? And you know what? Having somebody handle that social media part just so you can stay current is invaluable when you look at what your time is worth, how much, money you could potentially be making while you're spending time making nothing, posting something on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's a really an inner analysis of where you want your business to be going and where your time is going. Right.
I agree. Yeah. And there's a topic that we'll cover in a later episode on business coaching is time mastery. That we're going to have a special guest in. That's a big shout out to my business coach, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
She's coming in to talk to us about all things business coaching, whether it's time mastery, people mastery, money mastery. She's just a wealth of knowledge. So, but also on the topic of social media is influencers, and not only influencers as an actual profession in business, like being an influencer, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or whatever, but also as a business partner. So if you're partnering with an influencer to show off your product, or you're, not using is a bad word, but if you're like working with them to promote something in your business, that can be hugely beneficial to both of you.
Yeah.
And also, like, personally coming from or doing business in a small town, having an influencer even just mention your business name can be, that can trigger local media, that can trigger all kinds of people following you. So, being an influencer, I know I could never do that job.
I dreamed about it. I'm not going to lie. I was, I think when I was younger, it was right around the time then YouTube was just kind of coming out, and it was people weren't too sure what to do on the platform. There was a lot of interesting videos on there, but I remember starting to follow quite a few different influencers around that time, and to watch them just flourish in the industry. And everyone was like, well, it's just something you kind of do on the side, or maybe you're that introvert that can't get out, and just this is your avenue of being able to express yourself. And they were so positive because they helped link teenagers and young adults like myself to a crowd of unique people. However, the whole world of influencing people, it scared the crap out of me. I couldn't imagine sticking myself in front of a camera for hours and dealing with that judgment and those expectations, and especially being a young female I'm not saying this based on a gender or a demographic or anything. I'm just saying that, there's usually an image perception that is due, in those type of fields. And I remember hearing, even up to last year and the year before, watching YouTubers saying when we first came into the industry, we didn't know we were going to get sponsorships or connections and stuff like that. But the stuff that we had to deal with was just like someone that was, in the music industry or fame industry, like the same pressures and the same, drama. And that was huge for me. I was like, those trolls, I don't know if I'd be so good as to be like, oh, whatever, it doesn't bother me. I'd be like, I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to find you and where you live. And like, we're going to have a face-to-face talk. And like, can you imagine me? I was like 90 pounds and like a little tiny white girl. And I was just like, yeah, you and me out behind the Walmart superstore. We're going to like, I hear you've been talking some smack. Like, just like.
Don't read the comments.
Yeah. But that like, and that's what I found out later. Like, you hear their experiences. Actually, a really good local person, she lives in the Okanagan. Check her out. Her name is Carissa Pukas, and she is literally like, if you want to know the genuine, like how difficult it is in that industry, that is someone that you can actually listen to that had those ups and downs of her own health, but also in the industry and, people's opinions. But she turned it into a business. And this is the crucial part, is she took I know how to speak English. She took that YouTube life and she started connecting with things. And you knew, like, she would tell you honestly, this is who's sponsoring me, or this is, and she made an income and a living from this. Like, this, and there's many, many others that I follow that, they made it a business and they made money from this, which is amazing. On the flip side, many businesses have actually taken to YouTube to promote their businesses.
Yeah.
And it is amazing to watch their growth that has come just from like something as simple as a vlog. So I've been watching The Homestead, which is like one of my favorite YouTube videos to watch. And they have taken their lifestyle and their product, and they were resourcing naturally and they were selling it, but then they took to YouTube. And now people are like, well, what are you growing? It's organic. We want to buy it. And we want to pay $15 for your squash. And like, it's like unrealistic, but I mean, that is exactly what they've done. So, I mean, you can do that. You can take those connections with influencers and you can profit from them, hopefully mutually, or you can do it yourself. And that's something that I know I'm personally looking into now is, how many years later, 10 years later, and looking at how can I profit my business just from YouTube,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that all ties back into how much fucking time do you have? Right?
Enough to allow a camera to follow me around and see how disorganized I am in a day, but how I still make money.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you have the time to do that and you have the resources to have a camera following you around 24/7 and staying the fuck out of your way.
Yeah, it's called a GoPro and it's attached to my head. So
I totally can see you walking
move
around
the camera
your
to
house.
the side. Oh wait, that's me. Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those interesting looking people with like those sticks with the GoPro on the end, being like, oh yeah, no, it's totally like I totally have a cameraman, even though my arm's extended. Like, how people do that with Instagram, like, oh, this person randomly took a picture, but it's actually like your arm.
Yeah, and they like close their eyes like they're sleeping. My boyfriend got a picture of me while I'm sleeping, but it was just actually
Jumanji.
him.
That's where that came from. The beginning of Jumanji. I think she does that, and I was like, oh, that is accurate.
Yeah, so accurate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's also like, it almost feels a little bit like drowning because there are so many different platforms. And I just heard the other day, I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, some people talking about like an entirely different YouTube called QTube.
Oh, yes.
For the QAnons.
Yes.
So like, obviously, I'm not joining any type of video type platforms right now, but there's just so much. Like TikTok is just the newest, biggest one, but for every TikTok, there's probably like 20 or 30 smaller ones that, like, how do you keep up with all this?
Well, I'm lucky enough to have kids, so I actually like listen to them. And, whether you've got kids, grandkids, or just a younger demographic around you, just be willing to listen to what is happening because I find that that's key to knowing what is going to change and for myself, I waited for things to turn a little bit more mainstream before I connected with them. Because yes, you're right. There are a lot of smaller apps or, trends, but just wait for them to actually click in and for people to start talking about it on a more regular basis. Because in my opinion, you don't want to be that first person to get on to that website. And I'm only saying that because you don't know if it's going to flop. So I'm always trying to be the follower.
In a way, you have to be, though, right? Like, if you're not already a celebrity with any amount of clout, take, what's that new one that it's like podcasting but live. What's that? It was like all the rage last year.
You're not
They
talking
have,
about
like,
Twitch?
rooms.
No.
Like, you have rooms that you join.
Yes. That
You know
was
what I
like
mean?
the one that Elon Musk got connected with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
What
I
the
had
heck
that.
is it called?
It was by invitation only.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, what was that?
And for the longest time, it was only for iPhones.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
should have
God,
seen
the
me
name
doing
of
that.
this
I
is-
was like Sherlock Holmes times 10. I was like, I'm going to find me a connection. And I did. It was like the saddest thing ever. It was like the invite only club. And I'm like, I'm going to get invited. I don't care if I'm not on that list. I'm going to put myself on the list.
Clubhouse was the
Yes,
name of it.
Clubhouse. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So it's about finding which ones are reaching your audience, I think. Like, just from what I can say based on where I live and where I do business, I find Facebook to be a lot more about the individuals and the like civilians of the world.
Yeah.
Whereas Instagram is much more business focused, where you see a lot of other businesses on there. I know Instagram also has lots of civilians who aren't in business, but that's just been my experience. So I do a lot of my marketing on Instagram because my audience is businesses. So just about finding which platform is right for your business, and maybe that's YouTube and maybe that's QTube. I don't know.
Please don't do that. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. One of the next topic that I wanted to talk about a little bit was, like, to me, when I was thinking of what does it mean to be hip in an ever-changing world as it relates to business, and the answer that I came up with was sort of a battle between being a traditionally marketed, maybe not marketed, but like a traditional business versus a new age business, in the way that the traditional businesses are a lot more focused on the dollar. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I think so. Yeah. There are other words that I could use, but I think that's the right way to say it. Whereas a new age business, in my opinion, is more about being able to help each other, and like even in your own industry. Like if I have a competitor, as it were, call me up and say they needed some material to finish a job, I'm going to help them out. Whereas a traditional business would probably tell you to get fucked. Right? So just according to my morals, being a hip business means that I'm removing the cutthroat part of business as much as possible and having friendly competition. Mm-hmm. So like I can still help you out, you can still help me out, but we can still also compete for people's business in a cohesive world.
Yeah, it has definitely, it is changing and has changed quite a bit already. But yeah, that traditional is very regimented. And they're even within your own industry, a lot of those traditional methods, how you run your business, how you structure your business, you're replaceable. There's somebody else that can do your job. We just need to make sure that at the end of the day, that revenue is made. that money's in my account.
Mhm.
You know, there's nothing personable about that. And that obviously gets reflected out to the business that you do with your customers, your clients. But that new age is really affected by how our world has changed and is continuing to change. So we have a completely new demographic, and you know, this topic has been discussed over and over again. We've got, you know, a different demographic that is moving in. The boomers are moving towards that retirement age, and we've got the millennials and, you know, the Gen Xers within there, in the management roles, and you know, in a lot of startups. You know, if you think about a lot of the late millennials were those kids in dorm rooms starting multi-millionaire businesses like Mark Zuckerberg. So, I mean, you're talking about people that see a need, fill a need. But it's not about the almighty dollar. It's about, you know, they're just lucky enough to become millionaires. But they definitely seen a lot of pressure. So a lot of that new age thinking comes from like socioeconomic pressure, environmental pressure, the new age of technology. You know, you had these older individuals come up with the basic concepts of like Bill Gates coming up with working with a team to come up with the computer. You know, and you take all of those concepts and that thinking, and yeah, it's going to change the way we do business. It's going to make us concerned about not only the products we make, the people that we're affecting, but within our own business, how we treat our people to ensure longevity of our staff, and a reduction in our turnover rates, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely changing everything. And it's, in my opinion, a dramatic effect of what is happening in the world today.
Absolutely. And on that topic, something that I've always been taught is to reward good behavior. So I personally love that, you know, when a town or a city has an awards ceremony for businesses that exemplify these things. Especially in the how you treat your employees category.
And I must say she's really, really good at that, but that's not bias. Like, she's actually just really good at it.
I wasn't going to talk about myself.
But I'm going to talk about her. It's literally what every manager should be. And I'm not saying that being biased. It's a genuine concern for your staff.
For sure.
And ensuring that they're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there, I mean, there's many examples of that. I'm sure you all know of a company that, you know, if you think about working for Google, what kind of perks that you get to work there. They have a daycare built right in. They have beds where you can go have naps. Like, just...
I'm sorry, I have to stop you on the daycare built in. You know what it reminds me of is like Hotel Transylvania. Did you see number 2 when like the wolf mom and dad go on the ship and they're like, oh, it's got an onboard daycare. And then they're like, what? And like suddenly all their puppies come flooding in there and they're like, what do we do with this? That's exactly how I would feel. I'd be like, I'm going to work at Google because look at this blessing. All the kids go flooding in. I'd be like, what do I do?
All the baby quails.
I just like walk away like, what do I do with my free time? I don't even know.
You'd be productive, right?
Oh my goodness, productivity. Anyways, yeah.
So just about being a new age business, I think there's a lot of different factors. But I think a lot of it, you're right, is about how you treat your people, because nobody wants a high turnover of staff. And if you do have a high turnover of staff, it maybe warrants some looking into internal affairs. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that. About that.
But it also makes your business so much more complex. Like, it's no longer about that competition of just, this is who's in my category, these are my competitors, I just need to be better than them, more flashy than them, the newest product. No, now it's like all these different dynamics, and like human resources now has a full-time position in your building. Like, it's like, you know, you just have to always, as a business owner or even a manager of a company, be thinking about all these facets. It's crazy.
Definitely.
So complicated.
Yeah, there's a lot of hats that business owners have to wear. Both of us can relate to that and understand.
The migraines for days.
Shay's got her own businesses too. But even as an employee of my business, the different hats that Shay has been wearing and has had to wear that weren't in her job description, like,
but that is
there's
the
a lot
beauty of it.
Shay's the best.
No.
Thebomb.com. I don't care how old that makes me sound.
Yeah. I think the beauty of it is like, just a very brief backstory. Like, I stepped into this role with Sarah thinking, okay, this is going to give me like kind of a bird's eye view of what a startup is like and being a part of something. And no amount of schooling that you ever take will ever prepare you for the world of a startup. And what I've watched Sarah go through and how she's made this company blossom and how it's progressing. There is nothing like I've been in a municipal industry that's obviously established for years and years and years, and they have structures and policies and procedures, and I was there for a long period of time. And then I moved to another company where it's not a startup. It is established over a couple of years, and they've got, a full staff, and they're still going. They still have that drive. They still have, that they want that connection with people. They want that revenue. They're a little bit further along, but there is nothing as exciting as a startup. It's just like, yes, you do have to wear multiple hats, but you learn fast. And
you do. Yeah.
It is exciting.
It is exciting. Like I was just telling you the other day.
Yeah.
Shay's like, you really enjoy like the graphic design part. I'm like, you know what I really like? Owning a fucking business.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's a fucking challenge.
Yep.
And it keeps me on my toes. Like you're putting out fires, you're dealing with complex problems and complex people and multiple moving parts and talking on the phone and answering social media and emails. Oh my God, the emails. But it's all so rewarding.
I like my only comparison in my very like short life here is literally, like in college when you were like living off of pasta because you knew you only had enough money for your like books and your tuition.
What,
and you're just like,
oh,
am I gonna eat? Am I gonna eat? Is it gonna be tuna? Is it gonna be pasta? I don't know what's gonna happen. This is exciting. Yeah. That's what, on a 10 times like perspective, that is what it's like owning a business. You're like, ooh, am I gonna make the bills? Ooh, am I gonna have extra revenue? I don't know. But you're juggling so many different things, and it's when you land those clients that are with you. And I know people are like, oh, well, it's the big money gigs. No. It's those clients that you've passed their first deal or their second deal, in my opinion. Like, you obviously know way more about this than me, but that's my exciting part is I'm like, I have a client that I know is going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
And they like what I'm doing, and I've created a connection with them.
And here's a little hip tip for anyone who's just starting out in business. It doesn't cost anything to have a repeat client. So what I mean by that is you don't have to pay for customer retention when you have repeat clients. They just keep coming back. So that costs you nothing. They are the best. And that's why you often see a lot of companies bragging about the percentage of repeat business that they get. Because it costs nothing. But also because they're loyal to you and you've done something right if they're coming back, right? Couple more things that we're going to talk about. First one being, what's the right way to talk about being eco-friendly? I think you had a really good way of putting it when it comes to not only sourcing products, but just keeping Earth in mind when you're going about doing business.
Yeah, so I was thinking about like the pressures, right? So you got your environmental pressures and your socioeconomic ones are big players nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's, sourcing is a huge factor in that. Where do you source from?
Yeah. So speaking from my personal business, we have like I always try and source local first. And most of the time that's not possible for the stuff that I do. So then I'll source provincially. If that doesn't work, then I source nationally, and very rarely I'll go to the U.S. I have one U.S. supplier, and very rarely do I order from them. And then if we absolutely have to, we go overseas. But that's been in my 2.5 years in business. That's only been, what, 2 or 3 times, if that.
Yeah.
So it's important to me to not only source as local as possible, but sourcing materials and products that are also as eco-friendly as we can get them. Right now, I'm largely in the apparel industry, so sourcing products that are made out of bamboo or hemp rather than polyester, for example. But that also comes with a dollar sign.
Yeah. And sourcing doesn't always have to be like your material possessions. It could also be your labor force. And this is always a controversial one amongst business owners is when you're contracting in for your company, let's say it's smaller and it's cheaper to contract in. Are you contracting in for, Canadian workers or local workers? Or are you subcontracting to other countries? And this has been super popular because there's a cost difference, a major cost difference.
Major cost difference.
Like you can talk about, I hire somebody for data entry who lives in Thailand or, somewhere else, and Canadian dollars, I pay them like $5 or $6. You know, every time that they're in there, $5-6 an hour. It's super cost effective. However, I'm not employing someone around me. I just can't afford that. Like those are the controversial questions,
Yes.
but they're the judgment calls that you have to make about where your business is at, what your business can afford, and then also sourcing out locally. So, for example, there are virtual assistants now that can help you with your data entry. A lot of them are within your local area, but you don't know these things unless you source them out. There are temp agencies, which are excellent sources for this. So,
Yes.
You're a startup, you can't afford to pay somebody $20 to $25 an hour to do, your administration work. So what can you do? You can search out. You can go to these temp agencies, say, this is how many hours I have. This is the wage that I'm willing to pay. Help me.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a fee associated with that, but once again, just sitting down and saying, what can I afford? Doing the research. It's actually, a lot of the times the difference between success and not succeeding, right? It's like at the end of the day, this is how much money I need for my break even, but this is how much time I have. Can I outsource this?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, it's controversial.
It
Anyways, and as you know, I think my first podcast, I kind of like blew everybody's eardrums out being like technology. I'm like super dorky about it, but it's a passion of mine. What can I say? Anyways, but yeah, one of our other things that I absolutely love is like technology and information systems. This is, in my opinion, a crucial one for staying hip, is making sure that your data and your information is staying hip and current. And what I mean by that is if you are still using paper systems, we got to talk.
We gotta talk. Shout it from the rooftops. One more time for the kids in the back.
We gotta talk. We did not practice that at all.
That was not rehearsed.
Yeah, which is like good. So yeah, using CRMs. This is huge. So having your information in one place is so efficient. It saves you so much time. And what people don't understand is like, and they get these terms mixed up all the time, and I'm just nitty picky about all of these terms, but there is a reason for it. So when you have all this data, that is what your computer needs. It needs all those data to create these analytics, let you kind of know where your business is. There's other types of information, and that is what you need. So the information that you're getting, there's two types that you usually look at as a business owner. You look at your static information, you look at your dynamic. Your static is going to be that information about what your revenue was last year at the same time compared to this year.
Yeah.
That information does not change. You literally have those two and you're like, okay, well, I increased my profit by $500 compared to last year. Awesome. But that dynamic is information that's constantly changing. So you've got, for example, your revenue that's changing at that moment. You're constantly gaining money into your account and you're saying, okay, well, my current balance is like $1,200 and that really sucks. So let's make more money. But those are the types of information that you kind of have at you. You need to make sure that your data is accurate in your system in order to get the information that you need.
Yeah.
So the way that we kind of get around this is we have things like CRMs with built-in artificial intelligence. QuickBooks is an excellent example of this, even though it's got its bugs and its flaws, it's working its way through it.
Yeah.
What happens is you take a picture of your expense, your receipt, that AI kind of picks up on all of those different things in there and it tries to import it into your system. The data is more accurate than someone sitting down at the computer and typing in.
Correct.
You're susceptible to human error, right?
Yeah.
So you sourcing that CRM that works for your company combined with, it depends on what your company is and what you're using it for. For example, we use a CRM for our client data. So we have their names in there, we have like their businesses in there, we have all of that personal information, but then we have it connected to the sales that we use in there. And we're able to keep multiple records of sales in there. We're able to keep file documents in there of pictures of, proofs that we've developed. We have it all in one place. And so when the client says, hey, can I reorder? You're like, boom, I know where to find it.
Yeah.
It's right here. It takes me like 10 minutes rather than like recreating a proof or looking through all of these Google Drives to find your crap.
Yeah.
It is just super efficient. So find the CRM that coordinates with your business and what you're trying to accomplish, right? So, I mean, how many CRMs did we go through?
Yeah. So on the topic of finding a CRM,
this is a whole topic all on its own.
Earlier this year, I became obsessed with CRMs. And I honestly probably made it a full-time job for, I don't know, at least a solid month, like over the period of 2 or 3 months, just trying out different CRMs. And I even came to the point where I was like, fuck this. I'm going to build my own CRM. I'm going to phone some people in AI. I just couldn't find that one that had everything that I wanted. I know we settled on HoneyBook for a little while, which is actually brilliant for the creator.
Yes.
That's what they do. They're targeted towards creators, but they were just missing a few things that were pertinent. And one of them was email integration. So we finally settled on this one called SalesMate, which has full email, like two-way email integration from whatever platform you use. So we were set up on Gmail. Mm-hmm. Now we can import all of our Gmail contacts, folders that you currently have emails in. And not only does it populate on SalesMate, but it also keeps the record in Gmail as a backup if you need it. So it really is something that you don't want to skimp out on, both money-wise and time-wise. Mm-hmm. You got to spend the time. You got to do your homework and read the reviews. And a lot of them have tutorial videos for when you're first starting out. Watch the videos. A lot of them will have actual human beings phone you and give you a video tutorial. Like they'll share their screen and show you around, and it is a lot of work. But I tell you, the initial investment in time that you spend finding a CRM that works for you definitely pays off, like 100%.
Yeah, I find like the thing about CRMs, the only thing that I learned is that You know, you'll find a lot of CRMs that try to be it all. They're like, I am good enough for you. I am your person. Like, I can, it's kind of like that one employee that's like, and I can do this. They've listed it out on their resume and they're like, there is no way you speak like 15 languages. Like, there's just no way you're that good.
Yeah.
So it is, and this also goes out to like companies that are making CRMs, target your audience. Because this is like, if if we had one that had everything, we're not the only company in the world that does what we do.
That's right.
So, I mean, you're opening yourself up to so many potential opportunities, but and growth as well. Because I look at companies like Oracle that were focused on accounting and bookkeeping programs, and now they've hyper focused on one, and grown from that, and so that, I think that is where CRM should be going, and potentially will be going, is targeting companies and type of like certain industries. But yeah, I definitely like found ours. It had a few like little bugs in the beginning.
It still does, and all AI does have
I forgive
a few
you.
little bugs, right?
I forgive you, CRM, for not being everything that I need you to be.
Right?
You're good enough. I settled. I'm happy.
You guys should have seen the torment that I put poor Shay through. I'd
She's
be like, download this one, and I'd email all of the things to her, all the login stuff, and we'd use it for like a week, and I'd be like, fuck that, we're going to use this one now. Like, it was a true obsession.
Yeah, 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm sitting there doing my mantras, like, today's going to be a good day. She's going to keep the CRM. It's all going to be good. Yes. Like, it was like Zen moments for sure. No, it was good. It was neat to learn. It was like a crash course on every CRM out there. It was nice. It was like, I got to be the best at this. And I get into it and like research everything. She'd be like, we're changing. I'm like, oh crap. All right. Like, I'm going to be the best at this one. Like,
she took it with grace, though. She never complained once. I complained a lot, but
hey,
she
you
never
provide
complained
Coke
once.
and free chips. This might as well be Google. Like, come on.
Let's make it clear that she meant Coca-Cola.
This
Not
isn't a
the
Nicki
business.
Minaj song. Like, I didn't presume that you do that, y'all. Yeah,
Anyway.
the bass.
So, this is an episode that literally we could go on for hours about, and we do have bits of this episode that are going to branch off into episodes of their own. So, we invite you to listen to all the future episodes. Our next episode is going to be called Hip Advertising. Where we're gonna, Shay's so happy. I am too, because
I think every topic I'm like, yes, yes, so good. Yeah.
And while I'm talking about advertising, if you haven't already seen, we made some gorgeous, super soft hoodies with the Hip Nation logo on them that are on our Facebook and our Instagram to give away. So if you haven't seen that already, go check out both of those social platforms and enter to win. There are 4 steps, and we do make you work for it a little bit because they're not cheap hoodies.
Oh, and they are amazing hoodies.
She's wearing one right now.
I am actually, and like it's got this multi-purpose pocket in the front. I wish you could see. I'm actually kind of trying to show you. Anyways, it's like when you're on the phone and you're like, you have to see this. It's so cool. Like it's got like, look. No.
Oh, yeah.
But it's actually got a pocket for like your phone or like your pop, or it's like, or your snacks. Like,
yep, it's like a secret
snack
pocket.
holder. The kids are like, Mom, I saw a chocolate bar in the fridge. I'm like, lies.
It was in the secret pocket.
It's in my secret
whole
pocket,
time.
but they're just so soft. I wear it when I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But, yes.
So we're giving away 3 of the hoodies and 1 crew neck sweater to like 1 to 4 different lucky listeners.
Oof.
Wow.
That sounded so good. I liked it. Lucky. You gotta get a little closer to the microphone when you say that.
It bordered on being pornographic. Just say it.
We should Steve, we need to edit some stuff in here. Like,
Bow chicka bow bow. Oh, brown chicken, brown cow. Okay, never mind.
Good stuff.
We are ending every episode with talking about our favorite fill in the blank. This week we're talking about our favorite books.
currently, the books that we're reading, not favorite all-time books. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just tell you mine.
Yeah, go for it.
How Successful People Think is what I'm reading right now by John C. Maxwell. I am not a reader, have never been a reader. I think I've read in my adult life maybe 10 books, and I'm not young. So, but everybody that I know keeps telling me that I have to read, and daily if possible. So this How Successful People Think book was one that I included in our subscription box called the Branded Boss Box in the month of August. And I did order myself one with every intention of reading it, and just am getting to it now. And there was a quote in it that actually got me through some tough times. That was a Hitler quote of all people. And that quote was,
"Oh man,
what luck for rulers that men do not think." Boom.
Well, that speaks the truth, just from an awkward source. Wow. Although I did read like a Hitler biography, and I'm not going to get into this in depth, but apparently his team for his campaign was one of the best out there. It's crazy because his first go around, nobody liked him. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
But
Hitler
his
was,
campaign.
by and away, one of the best is not the word, but most effective leaders of all time.
It's crazy. And that's dark.
Yeah.
So my book is not a new book. It's a reread for the fourth time.
Fourth.
Oh, heck. I have to say this because it is one that I revert to every time I see myself migrating, and not off course, but I would say out of, and I'm not even going to lie, I've read this book 3 times in the past 3 years, like once a year.
Wow.
And I just have to say it's because, and I'm not going to say I read it verbatim, word for word, blah, blah, blah. There's key segments in it that I'll read like 3 or 4 chapters. It's that important. So anyways, getting to the book, long lead up. The book is The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. And this is, in my opinion, one of the most crucial reads if you know that you have a problem with habits. And I do. I would say, like, you know, when life gets stressful or busy, for a lot of people, especially when you've got kids and a lot going on in your life, even if you don't, I mean, you got dogs or whatever, a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
I don't know why dogs is my first go-to. But yeah, you got a lot going on in your
Things
life.
that are alive.
Yeah.
That you must
I got a lot of
care for.
goldfish you got to take care of. There's a lot going on that things start to kind of, whatever you take on that's new, something else falls off. And for a lot of people, that's their health. So exercise or diet or, for myself, it's those happy, healthy habits like reading, something other than textbooks because I'm in school. So, or it's, you know, getting up to do those, mantras and the meditation, even for 5 minutes. It's like the difference between mental sanity and insanity. Like, it's just, there's a huge difference. So anyways, this book uses the loop is what it's called. So your cue, your routine, and your reward. And it's identifying those habits that aren't effective and subsequently changing them. And being easy with yourself, knowing that, you know, you've been doing this habit for a couple of months or years and you need to change it. So, for example, sugar. Sugar is a hard one for most people.
It's like cocaine. It literally affects the same part of the brain.
Yeah, I read that. So sugar, coffee, those 2 things. Coffee is like my crutch. And it's like, you know, when I get to that like 3 cup a day, and I start feeling those butterflies in my heart, and I'm like, it's not because I find my hubby so attractive, but it's like probably because I'm going to have a heart attack. Don't worry, I still do, but it's a different feeling. It's like I'm going to have a heart attack. I probably had too much caffeine in a day. You got to cut back a little bit, but recognizing that habit has formed over time.
Yeah.
You're not recognizing what your body actually needs. So anyways, that's funny that you chose a quote because I actually was like, oh, there was an amazing quote in there from Aristotle. So I actually like looked it up in preparation. Yeah, I prepare sometimes. And it was literally this. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit."
Oh,
It is so true.
mic
100%.
drop.
Okay, well, I'm out. Bye. But yeah, no, excellent read. I've heard about it. Actually, I believe Oprah talked about it. Oprah's book club. It's one of those books. It's good for life.
Sounds, timeless.
Yeah, and you know what? For those people that don't read very often, it's available on Audible. So I recommend Audible. I listen to so many audiobooks. It's crazy.
I've tried. They make me fall asleep.
Yeah, they're not Joe Rogan. I completely agree. But I usually do it while I'm driving so I can't fall asleep. Because that'd be bad for everybody. How do you explain that to an officer? What happened, ma'am? Well, you see, he's got like a sultry voice. And that podcast was so good. Like,
I
no.
hope we're not talking about Joe Rogan having a sultry voice.
Heck no. Joe Rogan's aggressive. Oh, man. I wish we had more time today because I would talk to you about like this weekend and aggressive and passive and people's perceptions of you and I. Like, man, that was an interesting conversation.
One for another episode.
Definitely keep the tune to that story because it's actually a good one. A few laughs in there.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to us mumble on about our opinions and sometimes facts.
So sometimes, and you might want to fact check those. It's factcheck.org.
Pull that up, Shamey. Getting her a t-shirt. Getting her a t-shirt that says "Pull that up, Shamey." Anyway.
And on that note, folks, remember, keep hip. Stay hip.
I think it was stay hip. I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell us, send us a message. What should our final outro be? Stay hip or keep hip?
Or get hip.
Or get hip.
Not get a hip.
Like not break a hip, but like...
We're that old.
Holy shit.
Anyways, stay hip.
Bye.